Okay, we're ready to start.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. It's 9:01 a.m. And I'd like to call to order the public hearing to receive public comment on a proposed five-year fare program for fiscal years 2023-2024 to 2027-2028 for Golden Gate Transit and Golden Gate Ferry. Before we begin, please note this meeting is live streamed on YouTube and recorded. Members of the public are encouraged to watch and listen to the meeting on YouTube or by dialing into 415-569-6446 for the audio of the meeting. I'll repeat that number in a moment. If you would like to provide public comment at today's public hearing, please call 415-569-6446 and let the facilitator know you would like to speak. Madam Secretary, the roll, please.
Thank you. We're going to start with Director Conroy. It's absent. Dorsey. Absent. Garbarino.
Here.
Giudice.
Present.
Grosboll.
Here.
Hernandez.
Here.
Aston.
Here.
Moulton Peters. It's absent. Parr.
Here.
Rabbit.
Here.
Redoni.
Here.
Safai is absent. Snyder. Thought I saw.
He's visible right there.
Right there.
Where'd he go?
He's visible.
Oh, there he is.
Okay, there he goes. Okay. Stephanie is absent. Thier.
Here.
Second Vice President Hill.
Here.
Thank you. First Vice President Cochran
Here.
and President Terrio.
Here.
Thank you. Those are your members of the directors that are here. Staff on the line is Dennis Mulligan.
Here.
Joe Wire.
Yes.
Ava Barr Furbush.
Present.
Kim Manolius is not here. Madeline Chun.
Here.
Thank you, Madeline. Dave Rivera.
Good morning, President.
Mona Babauta.
Present.
Kelly Hopper.
Present.
Thank you. And Ron Downing is with us today because he will be presenting. So welcome, Ron.
Good morning.
That's it, Madam Secretary for staff.
Mhm.
And thank you everyone for joining us this morning. We appreciate your continued patience as we conduct the district's business in this manner. The manner will change next month. As a reminder, if you are not speaking, please mute your devices to minimize the noise on today's call. Madam Secretary, please summarize the public outreach efforts for this public hearing.
Thank you. In compliance with district policy, public outreach was undertaken as follows. A notice of public hearing was posted to the district's website on February 2nd. Legal notices were published in the San Francisco Chronicle, Marin Independent Journal, Santa Rosa Press Democrat, and East Bay Times, Contra Costa Times on Thursday, February 2nd and Thursday, February 16th. Legal notices were posted on the Lavaz website, referenced in social media posts, and were placed in the Lavaz bilingual newspaper edition for January. Display ads were placed in the San Francisco Chronicle, Marin Independent Journal, Pacific Sun, Santa Rosa Press Democrat, Petaluma Argus Courier, East Bay News, Ukiah Daily Journal, Triplicate, Lavaz, and La Prensa. A press release was posted on the district's website and sent to local media on Friday, February 10th. Email blasts were sent to customers on February 10th and February 14th and posted on Twitter on February 14th and February 16th. Staff report was also made available in Spanish as per the district's limited English proficiency plan.
Thank you. I see Mr. Manolius present with us now. Mr. Manolius, does the public outreach described by the district secretary meet the district's legal requirements for calling this public hearing?
It most certainly does, President Terrio. Yes.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Have we received any correspondence relative to this proposal?
We have. As of close of business yesterday, we received 13 comments relative to this topic of this hearing. And any further comments relative to the public hearing will be presented to the Finance Auditing Committee on March 23rd and forwarded to the board for recommendation at its meeting of March 24th.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Before proceeding with the public hearing, Director of Planning Ron Downing will give us a brief overview of the proposal. Mr. Downing.
Good morning, President Terrio, members of the board.
Board policy requires that we have a public hearing prior to raising fares or establishing new fares. The district last had a public hearing for a fare increase program back in 2017, when the board approved a new 5-year fare program with annual adjustments for the period between July 1st, 2017 and June 30th, 2022. We did not raise fares on July 1st, 2022. Current 5-year projections show that the district has a deficit of $423 million given current circumstances. And a good component of our budget this year is federal one-time COVID relief funds. So the proposal before you today is to establish a fare program that would span the next 5 years and have modest annual increases each year to provide an offset to that deficit and increasing annual operating expenses. Just to give you a little bit of context, the board had previously adopted fare box recovery goals, which is the amount of our operating expenses on bus and ferry that are recovered by fares. And those goals that have been established were 25% for bus and 40% for ferry. Due to the downturn in ridership and thereby revenues, our fare box recoveries are currently 7% on bus and 17.2% on ferry. Staff has developed a number of scenarios for consideration today that have different amounts of revenue generation over the 5 years. The first scenario has a 25-cent across the board increase for all trips within our service area. Regional trips, local trips, crossing the Richmond Bridge, all ferry trips would increase by 25 cents per year for the duration of the 5-year fare program. A second scenario also increases fares by 25 cents for trips between the North Bay and San Francisco, with some exceptions. The third scenario would have a 3% increase for trips between the North Bay and San Francisco, the North Bay and the East Bay. And there would be exceptions to that, and I will go over those in just one moment. The fourth scenario is a 4% increase across the board for all GGT regional bus trips between the North Bay and San Francisco, and the North Bay and the East Bay, with some exceptions. The exceptions that we are considering in scenarios 2, 3, and 4 are really intended to address some of the affordability concerns for low-income riders. So scenarios 2, 3, and 4 have these exceptions. Marin County local fares would continue to follow Marin Transit's fare policy. That fare is currently $2 and a discount of $1.80 if someone uses a Clipper card. Should Marin Transit decide to increase fares during the life of this 5-year fare program, we would bring something back to the board to incorporate that increase into our fare program. In Sonoma County, we've had concerns from riders that our fares are a little bit high for people who have to ride our service, particularly during off hours. We currently charge a $5 cash fare with a $4 discount for Clipper. We are proposing to lower that fare to $3 cash on $2.40 on Clipper. That would bring our fare more in line with what the local transit operators in Sonoma County charge. It would improve access to our system, particularly in the off hours when we have capacity on the buses for people that have to use our service when the other operators have either shut down for the night or have less frequency on periods like on the weekend. We would maintain the new fare proposed at $3 for the life of the 5-year fare program. However, subject to any increases in the local fares among the Sonoma County local operators, we would again bring something back during the life of this 5-year fare program to adjust those fares. The third exception is in the East Bay, where we would continue to match fares that we charge for a program known as Early Bird Express that we operate in consortium with a number of other bus operators on behalf of BART. During the early morning hours, BART has shut down the Trans-Bay Tube under the bay and has asked us to provide substitute bus service. Because of limitations in the Clipper program, we had lowered our fares to accommodate BART, which also resulted in a decrease in fare categories that we have on our fare tables that don't affect a lot of riders. So we've reduced fares for East Bay local trips. The Early Bird Express service we operate would allow somebody to travel locally between two of the BART stations in the East Bay if they so chose, and also for East Bay to San Francisco fares. We do carry a small number of people during any given year from the East Bay to San Francisco via San Rafael for people that are not going directly to downtown San Francisco. So we are proposing for scenarios 2, 3, and 4 to continue a discount for travel from the East Bay to San Francisco or East Bay local riders that would affect our Richmond Bridge Route 580. On the ferry side, the scenarios are similar, but yet a little bit different with some of the exceptions. Scenario 1 would increase all Golden Gate ferry fares by 25 cents per year for the life of the 5-year fare program. Scenarios 2, 3, and 4 are similar to the bus scenarios in terms of scenario 2 on the ferry side would increase fares by 25 cents per year, but we would have a reduction in what we call means-based fares for the Clipper Start program, and I'll go into that in a little more detail in a second. Scenario 3 would be a 3% increase across the board on all ferry fares, with again, a differential to reduce those means-based fares. Scenario 4 would increase Golden Gate ferry fares by 4% each year and reduce the means-based fares. So a little bit more information about the proposed means-based fare reduction. We offer throughout our system a 50% discount for low-income riders who are registered with the Clipper Start program to receive a discount on their transit fares. We have traditionally priced that Clipper Start discount at 50% off of the cash fare. On the ferry side, that's resulted in still a fare that is not really affordable for riders. That fare would be $7 with the discount to ride our ferry service, which is a little bit of a heavy lift. So instead, we're proposing to modify the policy under scenarios 2, 3, and 4 to change the discount to be 50% off of the regular Clipper fare. So those fares would drop. For example, on the Sausalito ferry, the current Clipper Start fare is 50% of $14, resulting in the $7 fare. The proposal would have a 50% discount off of the $7.50 fare, resulting in a $3.75 fare for Clipper Start users, again, improving affordability. We have 2 different fare programs on the ferry side. One is what we call the Clipper fare, which is the stored value fare on the blue Clipper card or on the mobile app. And then we have what we call the cash fare, which is the single ride fare that is vended from the machines. Those fares are also discounted at 50% for youth, seniors, persons with disabilities, and Medicare riders. We're proposing a small change in those fares to increase Larkspur single-use cash fares by 50% in year 1, to standardize that fare at $14 across the board for all of our ferry services, and then cap that price across the remaining years of the 5-year fare program. What that would also result in is a $7 fare for seniors, persons with disabilities, youths, and Medicare riders. So those fares will be capped at $7. That is a distillation of the many, many pages of fare tables that are attached to the staff report for the public hearing. So today we are entertaining public comment, and as Amaret said, we would bring an item back to the March Finance Auditing Committee. One of the critical pieces moving this process right now is we are a little bit ahead of the curve compared to our previous path of doing a fare increase program. In aiming for a July 1st implementation date, Cubic, which is the vendor for Clipper, who is working on Clipper 2.0, has informed us that they need changes to the fare program by April 1st this year, which is about 30 days earlier than usual, in order to implement the FAIR program on July 1st. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Downing. Are there any other staff members who wish to contribute to the presentation? I see a couple of shakes of the head. All right, since this public hearing is to receive public comments on the subject matter, I ask my fellow directors to please hold their comments or questions for staff until we get together in March at the Finance and Auditing Committee, where we will discuss this at length. Before we begin, Madam Secretary, how many callers do we have on the line today who may be speaking under public comment?
I'm going to turn it over to Justine to give us that number. She's moderating our public line again, and I believe we would love to have her poll again. One of the things I'll do is I'll kind of talk about the public hearing process itself first before we do that. And I just want to remind callers that during the public hearing process, there'll be one speaker at a time. I'd appreciate it if the speaker stays on topic, and if possible, we'd like to ask the speaker to state his or her name, and if representing an organization, state the full name of the organization. And please honor the 3-minute comment period allowed for each speaker, and a timer will go off at the end of 3 minutes. Justine, go ahead and take it away for us.
Good morning. Thank you. I would like to poll the room quickly, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Ms. Bach.
One
Please.
moment. Thank you, President Dario. One moment.
You have been muted. To
Good morning. I'd
unmute
like to see if
yourself,
anybody
press the
in
star
the
key
room
twice.
This morning that would like to speak. You can please use star to unmute. Thank you, President Dario. We do have one speaker this morning, David Pilpel.
Thank you, Ms. Bach. Please tell Mr. Pilpel to go ahead.
Mute off.
Good morning, President Dario. We do have one commenter this morning. It's David Pilpel.
Thank you, Ms. Bach. Please tell Mr. Pilpel to proceed.
David, go ahead.
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you. David Pilpel. So several brief points here. First, I appreciate very much the 2 public meetings that were held on this issue during the past week. I was able to put a number of questions and comments, as were others, and they were responded to by staff. That was very helpful and a pretty good format. I am preparing a detailed comment letter to the district to submit before the deadline tomorrow afternoon. I know that staff will read it carefully, and I encourage members of the board to do so as well. I believe that transit fares are important to district revenues and the district's fiscal health, since local or intra-county fares have been kept pretty low and may even decrease further, as staff just discussed. Regional or inter-county fares may need to increase more to better cover district transit operating costs. To achieve the fare recovery goals of 25 and 40% or something along those lines, current fares would basically need to be tripled, and that is neither rational nor recommended by staff, by me. That's not what is being proposed. The various options and scenarios that are proposed are indeed rational, and there will, I think, be some mixing and matching, both in my comments and perhaps in the staff proposal next month. And I hope that the board will consider various bits and pieces of the options and scenarios, or go in slightly different directions. There are several policy issues addressed with this proposal, including options 2, 3, and 4, which I found very interesting and thoughtful, including equity in various ways. And I'm trying to analyze and respond to them appropriately. So I thank you very much for considering my comments. And just finally, I may follow up with staff later today to clarify a question or two before finalizing my comments. I spent a fair amount of time yesterday trying to better understand the background on the Early Bird Express service that's being operated for BART and how that complicates the fare setting on the 580 route and trips from Del Norte BART to San Francisco. So that's currently where I'm at. But again, thank you very much for considering my comments, and I hope to finish that comment letter today or tomorrow. Thanks again.
Thank you, Mr. Pilpel. Ms. Bach, you want to take a moment and see if we have others waiting?
I would like to. Yes, thank you. Just bear with me for one moment. Is there anyone else that's joined us this morning that would like to speak? Please use ** to unmute yourself and let me know. Okay, I'm not hearing anybody. I believe that concludes our public comment this morning.
Thank you, Ms. Bach. I do see Director Grossbow's hand up. We are not discussing this subject today. Is there something else concerning process or something you wanted to talk about, Director Grossbow?
Yes, partly I would appreciate the fact that David showed up, and there's been a lot of times. I would appreciate if the staff would email out his letter to the full board. I know the staff will review it, but we'd like to see it, as well as those 13 comments that Amarat mentioned they'd already received.
Will do.
Thank you, Director Grossbow and General Manager Mulligan. I believe we've completed the public comment portion of this, since we have nobody else waiting to speak. So the public comment portion of the hearing is now closed. Madam Secretary, please summarize next steps in this process.
Thank you. The public comment period closes tomorrow at 4:30 on Friday, February 24th. And Director Grossbow, what I'll do is, after the public comment period closes, I'll corral everything and send them to directors, send them out to the full board. Staff will then evaluate all comments received and determine whether changes or modifications need to be made to the proposal. And the final recommendation includes a summary of public comments received will be brought to the Finance Audit Committee meeting at its March 23rd meeting and forwarded to the full board the next day. At this time, we anticipate both meetings will be held in person at the United Irish Cultural Center in San Francisco on their scheduled meeting dates. And I will get you information on that physical location as the meeting approaches too.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, and thank you everyone here for joining us. And our lone speaker, Mr. Pilpel. This concludes today's public hearing. The time is 9:23 a.m.
Thank you. I'll see everyone back at 10 o'clock.